So, I thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit today about failure in disciple making. I'd love to tell you that every person you deal with is going to turn into a wonderfully mature disciple, but that's not the reality. My youngest is really into fishing at the moment, and it's a little bit like fishing. I suppose you throw a lot of lines into the water and lose a lot of bait before you finally hook a fish. And sometimes you get the fish almost to the shore. You can literally see it glinting in the water, and you lose it in a moment. And disciple making can be a little bit like that. So I guess what I want to say is you have to at least in some way prepare yourself for failure. We're dealing with broken people because the reality is we know this. We are broken as well. And so disciple making always has its measure of frustrations and difficulties and ultimately failures. If you think about Jesus, God in the flesh, you are not. He takes these 12 men for 3 years. He pours into their lives. He has this particularly close inner circle of particularly close friends. Of perhaps John was the one whom Jesus loved the most, and he really invested into these men's lives and taught them about the kingdom. But one of the sad stories of Jesus' disciple making is that one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, this guy who walked and talked with Jesus for 3 years, who was the treasurer of the organization, who was there when he fed the 5,000, when he raised the dead, this guy abandons Jesus, sells him out for 30 pieces of silver. And so we've always got to prepare ourselves for failure. We can lead people. I mean, there's an old saying, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. And so it is with disciple making. I would ask that you would perhaps focus your attention on Jesus more than on yourself and on the person that you are discipling. Your aim in disciple making is to please Jesus. And I think what pleases Jesus more than our fruitfulness is our faithfulness. Jesus produces the fruit. What we do is we faithfully commit to try and make disciples. And there will be seasons when you will walk with someone for a long time, see nothing, and then all of a sudden, just something works, something clicks, the Spirit begins a new work, and they flourish, and all of that time and energy you've invested suddenly begins to bloom. There are others who you will think you've got there, they've really matured up, they have connected with Jesus, deepening their relationship, and then within a heartbeat, they fall and stumble and find themselves very distant from Jesus, with no interest even to reconnect. And you have to learn to deal with those failures. But I think what really keeps us going is to know that at some point Jesus uses our efforts, sometimes as bad as our efforts may be, as unclear in our own minds as we are about some of these things. The good news is that for 2,000 years, Jesus has been using the efforts of ordinary Christians like you and me to encourage others into his kingdom. And there are those moments when you will look back and you will see how people's lives have been affected by your ministry, also by the ministry of others. But you will see that you've had an impact for kingdom purposes. And for me, that's one of the great pleasures. One of my people that I mentored up as a young man through a divorce in his family, and as he came into faith, is now a church planter. Just great encouragement for me to see that. There are people in the life of this congregation who have come far from Jesus, but have been needing some connection and have found faith. And it's just such an encouragement for me to see those victories. There have been lots of failures, lots of people who've given up. Lots of people who have felt that the church was not helpful for them, who have abandoned Jesus. Some have not liked stuff I've done. And I think possibly even at some points I've hurt people. And so we have to prepare ourselves for failure, but remind ourselves always that we come under grace, that we are always under grace, that Jesus loves us irrespective of how well we do at making disciples of the nations. And that is why Jesus came to the cross. The cross is there because of human failure. And so in those moments when we feel despondent and frustrated and even hurt, just bring that mess to the cross and find Jesus' grace and mercy and healing again. So there we are. I just wanted to encourage you with that helpful reminder that we're not going to get this right all the time, and just bring your mess to Jesus and allow him to heal those wounds. Have a great day, folks.